Hello again. The calendar has turned to October. And well, last night I attended the October meeting of the Guilford County Republican Party. And this was local candidates night, where candidates run for school board, county commissioner, sheriff, judge, magazine sales guy, ice cream truck driver. Okay, those last two were a joke, but you get my drift. So we're going to start with the school board, the Republican school board candidates, I should say. There are two candidate forums that are going to be put on by the League of Women Voters, aka Liberal League of Women Voters, nonpartisan, cough, cough, and the News and Record, aka Greensboro News and Record, over the next couple of weeks, and we'll have plenty of time to discuss the Democratic candidates and their wonderful ideas. Ooh, can't wait. But in this video, we're going to talk about the Republican candidates, and I'm going to get my GOP pom-poms on here and do some cheerleading for you. So seriously though, we're going to start with Linda Wellborn, who is running for the school board in District 4. But first, let me talk to you about the makeup of the school board. Currently, the Democrats have a 5-4 majority on the Guilford County School Board, but there is good news. The Republicans have to hold 3 seats in District 2, District 4, and District 6. Okay. However, they do have a good pickup opportunity for the at-large seat in Mark Ridgel. And the at-large seat means that this person serves county-wide. So everybody in the county gets to vote on the at-large seat, whereas the districts are just people that live in the districts. So Linda Wellborn, she represents District 4, which is the far north and east parts of Guilford County, and the little bitty southeast corner of the county. So if you live in McLeansville, Gibsonville, Brown Summit, and the little bitty southeast corner that's like, I don't know, somewhere in the middle of nowhere, somewhere between Ashboro and Ashboro. So Linda Wellborn, she served on the school board since 2012. She believes in keeping the district schools strong and wants to address the teacher shortage that is happening in Guilford County. She wants to improve school safety and really believes that technology is the key to do this. She also wants to upgrade mental health services, and by doing that, she wants to add counselors to the mental health field. Capital improvement, she's running on that. She really wants to improve the air conditioning situation as well as the roofing of the public schools because of all the recent rains that we've had over the summer, and of course with the northern part of Hurricane Florence, this led to a lot of leaking roofs in the county schools. And she also talked a little bit about the future priorities for the school board. That includes improving the career and technical opportunities. And she said that is a really big key because businesses around Guilford County are really hurting for workers. So the school board really, at least for Mrs. Wellborn, wants to look at improving the career and tech school opportunities. I will say on a lighter note, she looks a lot like former Arizona Governor Jan Brewer. And she says that the analog cameras in the school need to be upgraded to digital. And she says that really a big, huge disadvantage with school safety is that there are 30 entry points. Can you believe that? To Northwest Guilford High. 30! Yeah, 30. She said something that really I didn't like very much. She opposes charter schools and school choice, which, to me, if you're a Republican, that's kind of like saying you're against tax cuts. I mean, that's a pretty steep issue to dissent on if you're running for school board as a Republican. Because I firmly believe school choice and charter school, that's really a great issue to reach not just Republican voters, but unaffiliated and even Democrat voters, and kids of not just white kids, but kids of all races: Hispanics, blacks, Arabs. Now, she said she used to be for charter schools, and then apparently she got in and she didn't like how the charter school system worked. She said North Carolina does not have strong charter laws, and she said community schools are better than charter schools. Now, although I disagree with her on her position on charter schools, we wish Mrs. Wellborn the very best of luck in her upcoming election. Next, we have my school board member. I live in District 6, and that is Mr. Wes Cashwell. And I would say a neat thing about him is he looks a lot like the governor of Maryland, Larry Hogan, who's a Republican. And of course, Maryland was where I spent the first 19 years of my life living. So there's a little sentimental value with Mr. Cashwell's appearance. His district you want to talk about gerrymandering? Wow. His district is gerrymandering with a capital G. It's a boot. It's essentially like a shape of a boot. I mean, you have Colfax and the eastern part of Kernersville, and then you go down into High Point and Jamestown, and then you kind of go east, but then you have this little, what do I want to call it, a little appendage or something that sticks out to the north and east. Well, I live in that little appendage that goes up into the I-73 and I-840 interchange right up there, just north and east of the PTI airport. Let's see, what else? Cashwell, okay. He said there's 73,000 students in Guilford County, and he said that all students deserve a first-class education as well as a safe school experience. Now, we're going to go on to a gentleman who I like a lot. I like him a lot, I say. His name is Mark Ridgel, and he spoke at our meeting back in September, but this was more of a long-form discussion and brought out a lot more information than he did back in September, because what he spoke about in September was at the very end of the meeting, so it was a little rushed and that sort of thing. But it's a very strong candidate, and as I said before, this is a key seat for if the Republicans want to flip the majority from 5-4 Democrat to 5-4 GOP. So Mark Ridgel is the at-large candidate for school board. He was a school resource officer for 8 years at Grimsley High School in Guilford County. He says, teachers are assaulted and cussed at every day. And he said last year, there were 28 teachers that left High Point Central High School. He said there's also a big problem with teachers leaving in the middle of the semester. There's a lot of disgust among teachers with the school board, and there's a lot of them who are up for retirement at the end of the school year in June, but they're so disgusted with what's happening in the schools as for all the crimes and also the corruption on the school board that they're leaving and retiring in April. And he says, unfortunately, gangs are back in school. And he also has a lot of concerns about the test scores and the graduation rate in Guilford County. And he says that, he's really relying hard on the GOP incumbent candidates to the school board to really help carry him to victory. And then a member of the audience asked him about, what's your opinion of arming teachers? And he said that his answer was from a school resource officer point of view and not from a Republican or Democrat point of view. And he says he's not in favor of arming teachers. He said the reason for this is because police, believe it or not, they go through 2 weeks of training to use a weapon. And then there's always questions about, is the weapon secure? Is the weapon away from students? And then you also have to look at civil liability concerns, as well as the psychological background of teachers, as well as the regulations and the checks and balance concerns. And then a member of the audience talked to Mark about the county budget, and 49% of the county budget goes to the public school system here in Guilford County. And also says there's lots of administrative bloat in the system. In other words, you have these huge 6-figure salaries of administrators that work in this county school system. And Mr. Ridgel said that it does appear to be top-heavy, but he says that he really is not going to have an answer on whether or not this is a problem until he serves on the school board, because there's a lot of discussions on this that happened in a closed session meeting away from the public. But he said, looking from the outside in at the school board, he says, yes, administrative bloat does appear to be a problem in the Guilford County school system. Next, we have Anita Sharp, who's running for the school board in District 2. And, boy, I thought Mr. Cashwell's district was bad. I mean, Mrs. Sharp's district looks like a 3-year-old drew it. It goes all over the place. It goes from like the I-40, I-73 interchange in the west part of Greensboro, and then it comes back, makes a little crescent shape through Jamestown, and then it goes on to where High Point Central High School is, and then it joins up with extreme southern Guilford County and the Pleasant Garden area. So, but Anita Sharp has worked with kids her entire life, whether it be serving on the school board or serving at her local church. Some of her goals that she wants to accomplish as a school board member is to serve all students, as well as make sure that all students have a safe and structured learning environment. She wants each student to achieve their very best, as well as close the achievement gaps. She also says that the school board really needs to take control of the classroom and really clamp down on disciplinary standards. She also mentioned that over-testing is a big problem in the public schools. Over-testing and under-teaching is a big problem in the public schools. And she said that charter schools have lighter testing loads. And she said, really one of my favorite words of the night, phrases, she is not just a Republican school board member, she is a conservative school member. And she usually votes no on the school board budget because, honestly, she can never get clear answers on the different line items in the budget. And she said either it's because the school board and the county government doesn't plan, or they just don't want people to know what's in the budget. However, she did say that there was she did want to thank the county commissioners for floating a $10 million bond for school safety, as well as the co-funding of a facilities plan for the school system. Okay, let me see. She also said that school safety is a big concern to her because of a lot of the, especially the high schools in Guilford County, they are multi-building campuses. And it's weird because where I went to high school, you had one building. That was it. And then you had a cornfield right next to it. But yeah, multi-building campuses are a huge concern for school safety in Guilford County. And also, Mrs. Sharp said that there's not enough funding for the perimeter to secure the perimeter around these schools. Okay. Changing gears here now, we have Mr. B.J. Barnes, who's the incumbent candidate for sheriff. And he basically didn't really talk about himself a whole lot. He mainly gave us a pep talk. He says, look, y'all, Democrats have absolutely nothing to offer. And he wanted to thank the state legislature for doing a good job of managing the rainy day fund because of the recent Hurricane Florence that hit much of the state. And he said he's having a book sign event on October 15th. That's at the Shrine Club at 5010 High Point Road, down the southern part of Greensboro, from 6 to 8:30. He said that his book's been reviewed by many editors, and so he said if you find something wrong with his book, he said, and I quote, "I don't want to hear about it, okay?" No, he was like, "I don't want to hear about it." Yeah, that's better. Moving on now to Justin Conrad, who represents District 3 on the County Commission. His seat is up for election in this cycle. He represents mainly Northwest Guilford, mainly the cities of Stokesdale and Oak Ridge. And I gotta tell you, it's the first time I heard him talk, and I'm very impressed. I wish he was my commissioner. I'm in District 6, and my commissioner is a Republican. However, I have not heard from him yet at a meeting. His name is Hank Hennon, and his seat will be up in 2020. With the school board and county commissioner, they always, it's this way in most counties. Half the seats are up in one cycle, half the seats will be up in the next cycle, and they rotate around every 2 years or so. As a matter of fact, the only commissioner race in my particular part of Guilford County is, I have one candidate, and it's a Democrat running for at-large seat. It's Miss Kay Cashin, okay? And I'm like, oh my gosh, you mean the Republicans didn't even put up a candidate in this seat? It's like, hey, so I'm going to have to do some heavy vetting of Mrs. Cashin to see whether or not I want to vote for her or just leave it blank on the ballot. And I'll let you know one way or another in a future video whether or not I will actually vote for Miss Cashin. Okay, so now on to Mr. Conrad, and I need to stop with the Michael Savage talking. Okay, so Mr. Conrad, he served on the county commission since 2012, and he says 4 out of the last 6 years, the 5-4 good Republican majority has reduced property taxes in Guilford County. He also says that under his leadership, they have opened the Family Justice Center, where they have served 16,000 citizens here in Guilford County that are victims of domestic violence. And there's also a proposed mental health center that's in the process of being developed because the Family Justice Center has been a real big success here in the county. He says over the last 6 years, they've added 15,000 new jobs. And he says some of that is state and national, and some of that's local. So it's not just, the commission. It's not just the county commission's doing a good job. It's state, national, everybody as a whole was working together and getting these jobs to Greensboro. Okay. And he wanted to point out that from 1992 to 2012, when Democrats had the majority on the county commission, okay, education funding was at 39% of the county budget. However, under Republican control since 2012, it is now 49%. And Mr. Conrad said that we increased education funding, but we also were giving taxpayer money back to individuals and businesses, and also they spoke about the $10 million school safety bond. And he says his race is very important, and it's going to be very hotly contested, because he said that he discussed the 2016 race where Pat Tillman was running for school board, and he won his seat, okay, in a pro-Republican year, okay, by only 300 votes. Now that is a squeaker, my friends. And then George McClellan, not the Civil War general, but the executive director of the Guilford County Republican Party, the guy who was immediately just under Troy Lawson in the GOP leadership hierarchy. Mr. McClellan mentioned that Mr. Conrad had saved the Mountain to Sea Trail, which is supposed to be a biking and hiking trail that goes from mountains to the sea, hence the name Mountains to Sea. But Mr. Conrad did a good job of making sure that the trail was continued to be developed, and it went through northwest Guilford, and there was not a gap in between on the trail, an unfinished gap. Okay, next we have Mr. Alan Perdue, who represents District 2. And I should tell you that the school board districts and the county districts are pretty much the same as far as geography, so I'm not going to really mention geography again. However, Mr. Perdue did say that his is a Dragon Tail district, goes through High Point, Jamestown, and Starmont Country Club. And he says that, Mr. Perdue, he makes things happen for the people, and not just the Republicans or the Democrats. Says he has a habit of reaching across the aisle to get things done, and a big thing is the Family Justice Center, which is going to open a second location in High Point on October 23rd. He also says he is chairing a subcommittee for mental health, and he wants this mental health center to be really a one-stop shop where anybody can come in and deal with their mental health issues and not have any regulatory barriers. And then he wanted to encourage us to vote the entire ballot. Now we have the soil and water super, I guess call it, what is it? Sorry. Oh, yes, soil and water conservation. Okay, now, I should tell you that the Guilford County Republican Party has endorsed 3 candidates. However, you can only vote for 2 on the ballot. And tonight we only had 1 candidate show up, and her name is Mrs. Gay Dillard, and she's very active with one of the women's clubs here in Guilford County, and I see her at pretty much all the events. So it's very, very likely that I will be voting for her as at least one of my 2 choices for the soil and water conservation seat. But she discussed what exactly the soil and water conservation does. It's kind of self-explanatory, but they deal with the soil erosion, water quality, and a lot of the they work with developers and farm owners with the whole soil and water environmental concerns. They also sponsor education programs that are about, guess what? Soil and water. And Mrs. Dillard said that the biggest thing that qualifies her is she has a geology degree, so she really knows her stuff. And her slogan is a very good, catchy one, I will say. She wants to keep your soil dirty and your water clean. And also it should be noted that the soil and water conservation position is a completely volunteer office. There's no pay for the job. Okay. Now we're going to go into some judicial candidates. And we have John Kreider, who is running for district court judge here in Guilford County. And he wanted to really bring up the state Supreme Court race. Barbara Jackson, who is the good Republican running for the seat. And don't forget, there's a bad Republican named Chris Anglin who is running for the seat. And then we have the very dangerous Anita Earls, who is who actually has led the Southern Coalition for Social Justice. So she is left of left. There we go. But Mr. Crider, his job as judge is basically to keep politics out of the courtroom, because he has people go before him in court. And basically the question is whether or not did you commit the crime, yes or no. And, the person, the defendant, the criminal, really could care less about Mr. Crider's position on capitalism, free trade, taxes, But district court, there's no jury trials, should be noted. And so the judge plays the role of jury and judge. And then he says there are only 3 GOP judges out of 19 in Guilford County. And fortunately said one's retiring, so it's going to go down to 2. And if y'all don't elect John Crider back, we're going to only have 1. Yeah. Okay. Then let's see. He said that he asked the question of the attendees of this meeting. He basically says, who's going to work the polls on election day? Of course, everybody raised their hands up. He said, okay, that's great. But remember, there are 1,400 hours that the polls are going to be open for early voting. So, working on election day is just not going to cut it. But he said, you really got to make an effort to work. And just remember that the 50 people that are attending the meeting in this room tonight are not going to sway the election. And it should be noted that Anita Earls has sued Clark Porter, who is running for the North Carolina Senate as a Republican. And he also says there are 5 Superior Court judicial races in the county, and they're all Democrat versus Democrat. But Mr. Crider did say that Bill Wood is running one of the races, and he's a Democrat, but Mr. Crider said he's a very good Democrat, and he's been married to the anchor from Fox 8, Cindy Farmer, and Cindy Farmer has attended a lot of the Guilford County GOP meetings over the years, and has always brought a fair perspective to her reporting. Bill Wood has also been endorsed by Mark Ridgell, who's a candidate, the at-large candidate for school board, as well as Alyssa Batts, who is running for NC House District 61. Okay. And that was all for the local candidates portion of the meeting. Now, the next thing that we did was went into the business session. And the first thing that we did was we had 2 precinct chairs elected. And there were 2 that were elected. And guess who? Guess who one of the 2 was? Me. Yes. But first what they did is they made me stand on my head, take a lie detector test. Yeah. Okay, I'm kidding about that. No. Basically, the vice chair, Tina Forsberg, asked Chairman Lawson for a motion to approve, and then the motion was seconded by the body, and then I was basically voted into precinct chair, so now I'm on the executive committee, and all the wonderful things that entails. And then we talked a little bit about fundraising, volunteer commitments, making sure that you not just work the polls on election day in your precinct, but also you help out with early voting. And then we moved on to one of my favorite parts of the meeting. It's kind of weird because they saved the best for last, I guess. Was a change on the county plan organization. Now, this was done by the former chairman of the party, whose first name is Ernie, and I didn't get his last name, but he is chairman of the plan organization committee. And what was mentioned at the August meeting was that Mr. Lawson, the chairman of the party, wanted to expand the executive board. So Ernie took a look at the plan organization, and he came up with a proposal to add first vice chair, second vice chair, third vice chair, as well as district chairs for the different districts within the county, as well as an assistant secretary. And then another change that Mr. Ernie proposed was to move the quote-unquote fiscal year from December to July to June. And he said this change in the fiscal year structure better accommodates the convention and election cycle. And he says that he wants to vote on these changes at the January meeting, and he wants for this to take effect officially at the convention in March. And he wants to elect new officers at the March convention. And he said that if we vote on it and it passes in January, then people are going to have an opportunity to run for the new officer positions. And basically what's good about this is he said there's more hands to do the work. And more people is going to give an opportunity, better opportunity for people to influence the inner structure of the party. And what's different, okay, you hear the word executive board and executive committee. So you're probably asking Bobby, what's the difference? Well, executive committee is the larger body of members. It's all your precinct chairs in the county. And I don't know how many precinct chairs are, but there are probably about 100 precincts in Guilford County. I don't know exactly, but that's a ballpark number. Okay. And they attend the monthly meetings, they vote on stuff, and they kind of guide the county month to month. Well, the executive board is a smaller group of members, and basically right now you have 4 members of the executive board, and their responsibility is to run the party day to day. Okay, so this is going to go from like 4 members to 16 members on the board. And Mr. Ernie mentioned this is the model that is used in Wake County and Mecklenburg County. So he said basically this is a good idea for Greensboro too, because Guilford County is like the 3rd largest county in the state. And another thing I'll mention is that the state party is kind of run very similar to what Mr. Ernie is proposing, because at the state party you have the executive committee, which is like about 700 people, all your elected officials, and then all your people, your county chairs, your district chairs, and then all your at-large members in the various congressional districts. Okay, then you have your central committee, aka executive board, where you have the chair, vice chair of the party, and then you have all your district chairs, and then you have all your chairs of your auxiliary groups, your women's club, your young Republicans, your college Republicans, your Hispanic Republicans, your Frederick Douglass Republicans, and all those kind of groups. Okay, so I think this is a good idea personally, and it's definitely going to streamline things and make the party more transparent, open, and just better well run. But Mr. Ernie also said it develops a pipeline of prospective officers, because you can have somebody who is currently a precinct chair, but then maybe they want to become a county district chair, okay? And then maybe a couple years after that, they want to be a vice chair, and then a couple years after that, they want to run the party. There's more of a ladder structure in place. And also, it also ensures continuity, in case... let's say, for instance, Troy Lawson, who's the current chairman of Guilford County Republican Party, he's running for a state house seat. If he gets elected, what's going to happen is you're going to have to find somebody who wants to run the party. Now, right now, that would probably be Tina Forsberg, the vice chair, but then you would have only like 3 people until you get to convention, right? So this is a better, it just, if for some reason the chairman has to step down, whether for he becomes an elected official or for other reasons, this just ensures that there's less of a hole. It ensures continuity. Okay, now we go into the part of the meeting where we do announcements and auxiliary groups. And honestly, for a lot of this, unless it's something that really tickles my fancy, or if it's an event I'm definitely going to attend, I'm not going to report it. However, I was impressed with the TARS, the Teenage Republican Group. There were probably I was sitting next to about 3 or 4 of them, and they stayed for the entire 2-hour and 11-minute meeting, and they were very well behaved. They were very astute. They were paying attention the whole time, and I think they enjoyed the meeting as much as I did, so, which is a good thing. But they mentioned that we hear all the time that the Republican Party is losing voters. That, in other words, it's just a bunch of majority old people and old white people, and they're going to die off, and, the country's getting more and more mixed race, and the Republicans are in trouble. But what the chair of the Teenage Republicans told me is that told the group was that Generation Z, which is everybody who's was born from the year 2000 until now. In other words, they're either newborn babies or they're in high school right now. Generation Z is supposedly as conservative as the World War I generation. And that was a very conservative generation because you had Dwight Eisenhower, you had Richard Nixon, you had Ronald Reagan, all win these massive landslide elections for president at the federal level. He also said that he's really encouraged that a lot of sophomores are joining the TARS. What has happened in the past is that you have a very top-heavy group of nothing but seniors, and then they graduate, and then there's no more TARS group at high school. But because the sophomores are joining, you're going to have more continuity in that group, kind of similar to what I was talking about with the executive board and everything. He says the major purpose of the TARS right now is volunteering, doing a lot of phone banking, and I know that they've teamed up with Congressman Walker for a lot of that too. And he says they have very strong groups at Page High School as well as Southwest Guilford High School. And he also said that Western Guilford and Northwest Guilford High School have just started their TARS group. And then we had some of the women's club announcements, and then the meeting wrapped up at 9. It was 9:11 p.m. 2-hour, 11-minute meeting. And the next quote-unquote official, well, there's going to be a fundraising event towards the end of the month. And you can go on the website if you want to learn about that. I'm not a big high-dollar kind of guy, but there is going to be, on the day before the election at 5 p.m., Monday, November 5th, they're going to have a sign deployment. In other words, you pick up a sign for your precincts, you want to help out other candidates, put out signs along the road, you are very much encouraged to do so. And then they're going to have a Christmas party, I believe, on Saturday, December the 8th. So, that is what's happening in the Guilford County Republican Party. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me close by saying, for the Conservative Pelican. I'm Bobby Crawford. Thanks for watching.